Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Pronogo's YouTube channel. I am, of course, Pronogo, but I am not alone. I am once again bringing you a caster. We're back with Shadow Fury. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing okay, thanks. Thank you for asking. And I'm excited to come into a match that apparently involves Terran.
That's correct.
I've been playing Terran.
Yes, that's correct. I was actually about to ask you, obviously it's been a little bit since the last time we casted, and of course it was a Zerg mirror. This time around, we're not going to see Zerg at all. It'll be Terran versus Protoss, and we actually have two games to cast here today. It will be the Shambler against ArbuzBudesh. We were just talking a little bit about how some people in the community have very strong opinions of certain balances and certain things and theories, but now we get to get into
Very
the
strong
cold,
opinions.
hard
Just
facts.
full stop.
Yeah, oh yes, sure, very strong opinions, full stop. And as we get into here, we're going to be going on to a desert map called Oblivion by the Beaver99, who also plays Terran, fun fact. So, there's a lot of Terran in spirit here. You ready to get started with our set?
I'm absolutely ready. Let's go.
Let's go. All right. Yeah, one of the things I'm looking forward to in this is because I haven't actually seen the Shambler take on ArbuzBudesh too often. And when it did happen, it was actually Protoss mirror. So this time seeing the Shambler here in the top left as I'm going to guess white. We can always guess the colors. It's like a fun little game.
You are correct.
Yeah, white. Okay, white Terran
And
in the top
I'm guessing Tyrian purple.
Ooh.
For ArbuzBudesh. Palatinate purple.
There's never any opportunity, man. I have no idea when to guess Palatinate, when to get Tyrian. But yeah, there's a whole couple of purples. There's actually not that many in the palette, funnily enough, so we can't have as many violet tones as we would like. But something we've made do with. A shout out to Dark & Fantasies, a project contributor who's done a lot of code assets and a lot of art assets for us. He's the guy who's responsible for the vast majority of the different colors here. Also, I have not paid any attention to the typing, so I don't know if you did, but the Shambler, of course, already doing it. In fairness, I think
they were already
Arbuz started
typing beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah, look like they were typing before the game started.
Right.
It's just a continuation of that.
Yeah, that's a classic move. Yeah, they never know if they're going to be playing a game or a set that's going to be casted until after it's already played, right? So we actually have two Masons being sent out here, and it's a proxy fulcrum that Arbuz is about to walk right into.
Oh, well played. Okay, is this going to be? Yeah, well done, Arbuz. Perfect scouting timing. When I saw that Shambler was sending out a Mason, I was thinking, okay. That's an early scout. Normally, at least, maybe I don't know the normal yet, but at least for me, I've found, you build up a fulcrum or a stockade or something, and then you send out the Mason. But no, in this case, it was right off the top. And see, ArbuzBudesh got the gateways, got their wardens. They are ready for whatever comes.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you think about where a vulture would have to be to get effective power in this situation, because I'm assuming it's going to be a vulture first out of the fulcrum here. It's not going to be able to heckle too many workers. It can come in from the north.
Oh, it's Goliath.
Oh, really? Interesting. Okay.
Shambler was building quite a bit of gas to get that Goliath going, too.
Yes, okay. I also keep note of Arbuz's scout worker right above the minerals in that little cheeky spot where you can sometimes see proxies done. So, but unfortunately for him, it's going to get snuffed out before it has a chance. Now, the thing about this, right, is that Dracodon is coming. I think if you make one Zealot here, you're also pretty safe, but the two forward Masons must be about repairing. That's like the only thing I can think of at this point, or maybe like a forward anchor, because you can put mech units into the anchors now, so that is a thing you can do. The third Mason has been
meat shield.
Right, yeah. Third Mason's also been dispatched to chase down the worker. It's only now going to be pulled back. So Shambler pretty behind in economy right now, down 3 effective workers, even though he's got the same worker count. So here comes the
coming in
charge.
here, Dracon coming through, and indeed repairs are the play as Shambler pushes into ArbuzBudesh's base, getting an angle away from the warden, trying to scout out what's going on, find the most vulnerable position, gets the scribes on the gas, moving them off, keeping ArbuzBudesh from getting more attack units, but that Draconin gets one of the Masons. Second Mason remaining on repairs with 2 Draconins. ArbuzBudesh looking like they're going to be able to push this off, but the question is how much damage can the Shambler deal in the meantime? Both Masons down. The Goliath is left. The Scribes are vulnerable. The Draconins
just got
stopped
stunned
by Lobotomy Mine. And now Shambler has free reign over ArbuzBudesh's base. Arbuz, all they can do is try to pull all their scribes, drill them onto that one mineral patch.
There's another lobotomy line, though. That vulture paying for itself. Remember, the other vulture actually didn't lay any mines, so that's worth pointing out here. But yeah, as of right now, looking very good for Shambler getting some harassment done. However, he's still behind workers, right? He hasn't actually been making that many workers behind all this. He did lose the 2 on the front, and the surround from the scribe's actually going to lock that vulture in and execute the Goliath. We are pretty much back at an even Steven game at this point. So after all that silliness, I think it's just going to continue from here like normal, question mark?
I guess it just kind of, I mean, that fulcrum is still there. Vultures are streaming out. There's already one in the field. Another one in the base, but man, if Shambler Like, it's one thing, Shambler holding on, are they, like, what are they going to do with this extra money?
Right, yeah, that's my theory as well here, my curiosity. He's putting down an anchor in case of a, gateway man-fueled response, and they both gave inaccurate worker counts at the time, so that was kind of interesting. Although I guess it's because if when you're a player, you get the, like, if you hold Alt, you'll see what the player sees, because they actually see what's incoming, what's in production, whereas we see actual by default when it comes to the witnesses here, so a little bit of a...
I'm not seeing that. Weird.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, maybe it might be a config option. I can't remember.
It is a config option. Yeah. I guess that's what that config option does.
Yes.
Okay, I should turn that on.
So it's something for I find it easier to cast from the actual like not really supply obviously, but like unit counts, and I find it earbuzz to do that and be able to hold Alt to see. So that was why it's a config option actually, is because I was using it for that reason. But Arbuz having a good little banter there, but they are going to trade a Vulture for a Draken. And I say that actually as escapes with 4 HP. Shambler going way too deep to try to finish that one off, and now he's got to fall on back.
Getting the lure back. There's the bottom of mine. Shambler not going for the finishing touch and moving back. Yeah. They are done with this proxy.
All right, well, at this stage, we do have Shambler trying to transition into something a little bit more safe. He's actually going to be going for Cyclops. Hit 'em Up has been playing a lot of Terran versus Protoss lately, and he's been saying to everybody, just spam Cyclops. And you know what? I don't know if it's any good because I haven't seen it yet, but I long for a replay where that gets ended up, sent across my desk, because the Cyclops has been this unit that has been like the underdog perennially. It's just the kind of unit that everybody's like, oh, it's too weak, it dies too fast, it's too squishy, doesn't deal that much damage. And then, you get Hit 'em Up, this macro monster guy who just like has pretty sound mechanics from an RTS standpoint, and he just slams out like 8 fulcrums and has like 50 Cyclops in some of these games that he's telling me about, and I'm like, well, I wish I could see these because they sound tantalizing. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, that's something I've actually been finding in my recent games too, is the Cyclops, like they're good once you're dealing with large forces.
Yes.
Like in large army fights, Cyclops punch way above their weight because you're not going to be dodging those grenades that get dropped in the ground.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So for anybody who's unaware, the way that the Cyclops attack works is when they attack their target, they deal their 10 damage, and then 2.5 seconds later, or around 2 seconds later, basically their attack detonates again. We're going to see this in action right now. Yeah.
As ArbuzBudesh comes in, trying to stop this expansion, anchor drops, has a vulture inside. Yes. In fact, has all but vultures inside. Has only vultures inside.
That's right.
ArbuzBudesh scouting out the expansion, unable to do much about it. They are ahead on expansion, so at the very least, they will be able to manage an economy advantage as they shift. Oh boy.
That's right. That's right. I mean, the Stargate's already on. Exemplar on the way.
Exemplars in. Yep.
Yeah. So the significance here is that it's going to be able to splash a lot of units down, and you might look at this and think, well, Shambler has the tools, right? He's making Cyclops. He has Goliath tech, obviously with the 2 fulcrums. But if you can get enough of a ground army to distract the mech units and keep them kind of clumped up in an awkward spot, I think that can actually benefit the Protoss quite a bit here.
Oh, and the Anceel coming in, but as you pointed out, with splash damage, the Anseel's only going to be so useful.
Yes, that's right. So funnily enough, Shambler has been sort of baying for a while now, asking for, hey, can we fix the issue where splash damage doesn't get intercepted by the Anceel? Because originally it was supposed to be in the spec for the unit, but that turned out to be pretty difficult to program in. So we just left splash as a sort of exception, similar to how Dark Swarm in Starcraft 1 kind of works that way as well, where splash damage will bleed on through, right? And so we were like, oh yeah, I mean, that's all right. It's like kind of the thing, concession you make. Well, Veek7, lead programmer here, has actually been able to fix that issue on the most recent set of updates. So the Anceel now does just absorb splash damage normally, which means if you attack it with, say, a Cyprian or a Lan effect or something like that, it won't take HP damage. So that's not going to be the case for now. So Arbuz is going to be able to have the right kind of response to this, but this is shaping up to be a pretty nice attack for Shambler.
Shambler cracking through Arbuz's concave. Arbuz is a really good concave to begin with, but Shambler able to push that back, get the advantage position themselves, and force ArbuzBudesh reposition. The Exemplar is still not out, so Shambler is able to start cracking away these Dragonins. Zealots get down to the front. The Dragonins going down one at a time. ArbuzBudesh wisely retreating. The Shambler finishing off one more Draconin, continuing to fall through. I mean, why not at this point? Shambler has nothing to lose.
Yeah, he's got more clerics being produced. I think that was one of the things that he was waiting for before commencing that fight, is he didn't want to waste resources and Mason, mining time on repairs. He wanted to get the clerics with their nanoguns out, get them patching up those mech units. That's something that the first time people see that, especially if they're like Brood Warheads, they're like, wait, the medics are healing mech units. What's going on? And
I'm still getting used to that myself. Yeah,
that's the same as
I built the shamans, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's totally fine. And then I see someone with medics, and I'm going, wait. Oh, yeah. I could build those. Right. They are useful. Well, there is a reason to build Stockade and TBT.
That is indeed the case. Here's the land effect out to deal all that splash damage, and the Exemplar obviously doing that as well. One of those Ant Seals very close to falling will end up hitting the dirt, and you know what? These Cyclops, they're dealing a lot of stack damage, but they only pick a single Exemplar so far.
Second Exemplar will go down, but ArbuzBudesh holds off the attack. Shambler losing everything in that push. Able to rebuild in the process, so a counterattack from ArbuzBudesh will not be the best idea, but ArbuzBudesh maintaining that expansion, maintaining the defensive position, and getting back to a neutral position.
Yeah, and you know what? He's up by 5 workers. He has that embassy for even more worker production, which is a situation you can't say the same for the Shambler. They're matching each other's worker queues right now if you count the quarries. And so the second Stargate also meaning that he's just going to be going really heavy into these Exemplars. He makes the 1 land effect, and it actually picks multiple Ant Seals, 2 of them going down there. So resetting the count on that before it can really snowball means that Shambler kind of loses out on his opportunity to push. In StarCraft 1 by default, you talk a lot about things like, what's your tank count? How many Dragoons are there? Can they snipe your Dragoon? Can you snipe your tanks and stuff like that? And of course, you think about like Zealots. As soon as the Zealots die, you fall on back because of the Vulture damage and then the tanks and stuff. Now, you factor this in. Ant Seals are kind of like this early version of that, where in Cosmonarchy Terran versus Protoss, you need the Ant Seals to absorb all of the burst damage. Whereas, obviously in TVZ, the damage is a little bit more spread out. You can get away with Shamans and Clerics a lot more. Ant Seals really allow you to position aggressively on the map. And right now, Shambler is demonstrating that, and also demonstrating why when you start to lose them and you lose that count and it gets reset, just like the tank count, you need to really start macroing up instead.
As Shambler is doing, getting a treasury up.
That's right.
Preparing to just launch that forward to a third, while at the same time, ArbuzBudesh just finishing taking their third. Keeping that slight economic advantage going into the mid-game. And Shambler, I'm kind of curious with the amount of Vespene they've been saving up, if they're going to be going for a quick tier 2 after this attack.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. And you know what? These Ant Seals are narrowly going to miss out on that Witness. That would have been a great snipe to kind of leave this cloud of darkness in terms of the information. But a second Witness dispatched as well, and Arbu is now tailing this army. So he's aware there's no third base up yet, and he's aware that Shambler's out on the map. Gives the Protoss a lot of advantage in terms of the information, but he will lose Witness numero uno. The second one just stationed above his natural to make sure that he knows when the enemy is about to knock on the door, and adding only a third gateway right now as the gas caps are coming in.
4 Exemplars for ArbuzBudesh, as Shambler looking to find a position with an army that is going to struggle to deal with this. With a good focus fire, should be able to get rid of the Exemplars. ArbuzBudesh, if they can take out the medics, or the clerics rather, and the Ant Seals, that's going to be the key.
That's right.
Shambler going in. Ooh. Finding that position, drawing out one of the Exemplars, just about baited one of them to death. But ArbuzBudesh on top of that, taking the fight anyway. Land effects and Exemplars being the things to knock down. Shambler caught out of position. Able to retreat, but desperate to find the actual position to find a position of actual strength, rather.
That's right,
ArbuzBudesh coming around the side, cutting off retreat. Shambler taking out land effect after land effect, but losing significant chunks of their forces, everything unable to fire. Shambler being forced back, clerics pulled away from the rest of the army, unable to heal, while getting ripped to shreds by Zealots. ArbuzBudesh taking out the rest of Shambler's forces, now without a healer, barely without any protection, and ArbuzBudesh has no resistance as the Shambler unable to take the direct retreat path, unable to contest this fight. ArbuzBudesh using this to leverage a fourth.
Yes, indeed. And look at all the idle workers lying around waiting for Shambler to task them on somewhere. And you can tell he was fully focused on that fight. And you know what? At the same time, you use that opportunity, like you mentioned, the fourth base almost operational, expanding away from where the fighting is going. Kind of shows, like some Protoss players will take confidence and they'll say, no, I'm going to expand towards your army because that's how confident I am. Use that as a staging ground. But Arbuz, he recognizes the way that the map is laid out. You benefit from taking these fights. He had a really nice timing before some reinforcements came on in. And I just don't know. I mean, Shambler can definitely hold from this spot, but he is disadvantaged, and this tempo is really favoring the Protoss by now. Stretching ahead in workers ever so narrowly, but also in terms of tech, having the gas caps up. Still no tier 2 up for the Terran. And now an attack coming back in.
Now I get a chance. Shambler in, all balled up, ready for the land attack to tear them to pieces. Fortunately for them, ArbuzBudesh focusing more on the anchors than on the army. All the ground forces unable to do much damage, and the Exemplars, well, they got their prize.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Synthetic Scion being warped in at the 3rd. That means we are probably going to see Demiurges, one of the favored units for Arbuz.
Ooh. So. Well, that's gonna be a fun time for Shambler dealing with tyranny.
Yeah, no kidding. Finally gets those idle workers out. That was something like 9 workers just hanging out. So he's going to task those onto the 3rd. Man, saying that out loud, it doesn't sound like it's that many. It's only 9, but that's like a 10th.
That's 10% of the workers.
Right, yeah. So that we're just kind of idle for that time. So you know what? It's all right. It happens to the best of us. I don't mean to harp on it. Just to underscore just like how much focus it's taking for Arbuz to be taking a bit of an aggressive stance. And now having that power stance in the middle of the map means that, it's really the onus is on Shambler to be able to break out. And he still no tier 2.
Oh, the rogue galleries. Look at the 4th. Look at how many rogue galleries being set up.
Oh, are we getting Vagrant City? I think that's what I think.
Maybe that or Kabbalist.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, he's got some Vespene income now thanks to his gas caps in the main. Needs to maybe factor that in a little bit more. Now look at the Anseal stack, just going to get deleted. There's no energy left to cover them, and we don't even need the disruption field from the land effects. Exemplars absolutely shellacking these Goliaths, but the healing is starting to stack up a little bit nicely. And you know what? Those Anseals didn't end up biting the dust, which means occasionally they will regenerate energy, especially as the Zealots start falling. We are going to see some focus fire, and those Exemplars, they're starting to fall.
Definitely forced to reposition. ArbuzBudesh maintaining the advantage as Shambler regroups. Shambler's 3rd under threat as the 4th and 5th already getting set up. The treasury's being built.
Yeah, that's
Shambler
right.
with a lot of confidence in their economy, but ArbuzBudesh spots that. Exemplars are in position to take out those treasuries. And while missile turrets are doing their job, ArbuzBudesh doesn't have to worry about that. Their melee front, or their front line, their Dragons hold the line as the Zealot reinforcements come through. ArbuzBudesh flanking Shambler's army and just clearing it out. Shambler able to hold, but at great loss.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the
remain after this.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you look at the money in the bank as well. He only queues up a couple more Goliaths. He's streaming them on in. You saw his camera position go to his reinforcement point for a brief moment, and then sort of like in disbelief, like, wait, where is all the units?
Where'd it go? I thought I built stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So Arbuz is going to reinforce after that one, take a moment to regroup. He's actually adding a 5th base, so it's still not calming down, right?
And Vagrants were the right guess.
Oh, there we go. Plus the Demiurge, remember that, is starting to come out of the Synthetic Scion.
Yes.
Even queuing up one behind it, kind of. I think both players a little bit behind on the macro cycles here and there, but, the fighting has been pretty nonstop for the last couple minutes.
Well, when you get this much fighting, you honestly kind of need to queue just so you have the reinforcements. Because, you're getting real focus. You're getting, maybe a little tunnel visioned, but you need to have that focus. So, a little bit of queuing here and there keeps your army up, keep your production up.
Yep, absolutely. Better than that, than just be like, no,
Nothing.
it's not good to queue and then not have anything. Right, exactly. The Goliaths are stacking up, but they're not in an ideal position. Remember, cliff advantage is valid for these spots, and definitely going to be favoring the Vagrants and a couple of Drakodons that are staying alive. You can see Arbuz trying to transition away from the Drakodon army into Zealot Vagrant, which is definitely going to be more favored for this position. But remember the Cyclops. If you can get a couple of those, and there's only like a small handful over there, and they're just going to get nuked down by the Exemplars, I'm afraid. This could be the final push.
If they can get in position, though. That's the problem. Shambler's Cyclops were out of position for most of that fight. Now they're finally getting in, taking out the Zealots, but ArbuzBudesh's army is surrounding them, overwhelming them with the sheer number of Exemplars, and the Vagrants on top of that coming in here and just wiping the floor.
Yeah, it feels like Arbuz being a little bit too cautious at that point might have been able to end the game. But you know what? Those Cyclops reinforcements, that was the right choice from the Shambler, and it was at the perfect time. We've got multiple bases being set up on location at 12 o'clock and in the top right. These treasuries, Shambler's finally remembered them, going to dispatch to establish a 4th base. But I just feel like it's a little bit too little too late right now. If you look at the economy that's been established by Arbuz, his 5th is saturating. He's got the gas mining, setting up some static defense as well. So it's not like an easy, uprooting that can be happening over there. and many more reinforcements streaming in from the middle.
And the struggle, of course, is at this point, the Shambler has still 30 minutes in the game not built an Atlas.
Yes.
They do not have Tech 2. This entire game has been Terran Tier 1 fighting for their lives. Demiurge comes into position, and ArbuzBudesh, they have an overwhelming advantage. Demiurge does go down, but the rest of the army is able to continue wrecking face, tearing apart all the clerics, removing the Cyclops from the board, leaving the Goliath as the only thing left. Land Effects Disruption Field is doing enough of a job, splitting the army up and leaving Shambler in shambles.
Yeah, it looks like it to me, man. I'm not seeing much over here. It looks like he's about to exit stage left with the rest of his army, trying to let his reinforcements do stuff, but they're running right into a Demiurge, so those are going to be some Protoss vultures pretty soon. We'll see if Arbuz lays some mines of his own, as, of course, he just pushes on further forward. GG has to be called, and Arbuz takes the game.
Well done, Arbuz. That was impressively done. They expanded properly, they held early aggression, and from there, turned that into a gradual but inevitable win.
Yeah, it does feel like it was inevitable. I mean, an imperious set of Protoss units. That I love the transition into the Vagrants in the mid-stage to give his army a little bit more ranged DPS, which I felt like the Drakodons after a certain point were starting to become surplus to requirements. But you know what? That game started off with an attempted forward fulcrum. Do we think Shambler's going to go for something different in game number 2?
Ooh. Honestly, no. Knowing the little I know of Shambler,
right,
no.
Right. Okay.
What little I know of having played with Shambler and against Shambler,
yes.
They seem to have a tendency to double down on things when the things don't go well.
Oh yeah, well,
but
let's
we'll
find
out.
out. Yeah, let's see what happens, because just saying that, I can tell you've got an accurate read of the man, because here we go. He is going to be in the bottom right, as of course the White Terran yet again.
And ArbuzBudesh in the... Is that beige?
It is.
It is.
Look at that.
It is beige.
All right, you got it. I was not going to guess that color. I don't even know what I would have guessed. Tan or something. No, it's definitely too bright to be tan. I would have had to think about it a little bit more. But you know what? Beige versus white. Normally, this would be an unreadable color scheme. But actually, I could tell the difference. If you have flux on or anything like that,
map, yeah.
That might be a problem.
I actually do. And it's just that it's not on yet. Like, I have flux, but it doesn't really start kicking in until an hour from now.
Oh, okay. So we're safe. We're safe.
Yes, we
Otherwise,
are safe.
These would be very similar colors for you. So,
the weirdest, actually, the funniest one is that purple and yellow start to look really similar.
Yeah, that's right. Because I haven't used it in so long, but it's definitely one of those things where, you start to get used to it, and then, well, look at this. Speaking of getting used to it, I think he's got to get used to Arbuz almost scouting. Is he going to see it? He's not going to see it. Okay.
No, that's the one correction. Shambler putting it in a much less visible position.
Yes.
So ArbuzBudesh's scouting scribe, specifically looking for this, I'm sure, will not find it simply because Shambler predicted they'd be scouted.
Yeah, that's right. And remember, this time around, we're probably not going to see a fast Warden, but we could see a second Gateway really fast. That is how Arbuz likes to play this matchup. The scout exchanges words from the totally legit first Mason I sent out, wink, and that's exactly what Arbuz is going to be thinking. But, are you really at the level where you're counting the workers and saying, oh, you've got one less worker than you should? That's not really the level of Cosmonarchy that's being played right now. Or if Arbuz is doing that, well, power to him. But 2 Masons, the Goliath over here.
Select all workers.
Yeah,
I use the condensed selection UI. I think that's honestly the better way to set it. Other than when I'm going to select one from the command card.
Right.
Which, if you clicked on it, I don't know. That's...
There are little things you could do. There are little things you could do.
But yeah, having that, it's like, I can just count the number. Okay.
Only problem is you can't group select enemy units. So how are you going to be figuring that out?
You're right.
So
you're right. I'm taking advantage of the fact that I'm using the replay.
Right. So, well, and another thing too is that at any point, as soon as you scout 2 Masons really far forward, you're probably alert bells are ringing. In fact, the Warden is already up because, of course, the scribe gets all the way over here, doesn't see a structure, thinks, oh, you're proxying. So the Warden's already here. We'll see if it's enough. It's in a slightly more defensive position than before, which might allow the Goliath to take more space. It's on here, though.
Dragon moving back to it. ArbuzBudesh wants to make sure their defensive position works for them, not against them. Shambler avoiding that Warden at all costs while allowing the Vultures to come in slowly but surely.
Yeah, this is an interesting idea. Anchor going to go on down, and remember, the second Mason is here to try to repair that, but we're starting to get into snipeable territory. That Draconin going to be sort of positioned a little bit further backwards, and you know what? Even though he snipes the one Mason, takes a lot of HP damage. If there was more focus fire, that would be a dead Draconin, 100%.
It's going to be... Oh, the Lobotomon's coming through that. Getting sniped. Shambler still able to hold the position with the Anchor. That gets up. That Goliath is going to be darn near unstoppable. One Dragon goes down. Arbuz building a second one. The Lobotomon stops them. The Anchor is down. Shambler, or Anchor is up rather. Shambler only against 2 stunned Lobotomized Dragonins. Now the Anchor moving in. Just that the imperiousness is on the other foot.
That's right.
Shambler has complete control over ArbuzBudesh's mineral line. Draconin from ArbuzBudesh. Is that going to be enough? No, ArbuzBudesh gets yet another Draconin, but that repair from the Mason, that forward Mason, 10 health remaining.
No kidding.
Holding the line.
Yeah, this is getting crazy right now. Remember, you get +2 weapon range inside an Anchor, so the effective range of stuff like this, you look at the Vulture, you don't think it's enough. It's definitely enough, especially you factor that in, and there you go, a blazingly fast second match where we have Shambler tying it up. If this were a series, we'd be going to a decider right now. We also probably wouldn't have been on Oblivion a second time, but you know what? Why not? I mean, let's just see what happens. So, hey, I guess now we're seeing, when Nebline was on the program recently, one of the things that I had mentioned is that, you know, Shambler's been trying this Proxy Fulcrum, and Nebline said, yeah, it was Goliath. It was really weird. It didn't work at all. Well, now we're seeing what happens if you don't respect it, right? So it's kind of a little bit of a thing to pay attention to in the future. For anybody going up against the Shambler, now you know what he might be doing, right?
Always look for that. I mean, that was... I am impressed in the second game that Shambler adapted and moved their Fulcrum. That was the key difference. Like, yes, they did get spotted, or they didn't get spotted. Yes, Arbuz did correctly realize this was a possibility, but still, Shambler was able to get in there and be able to do the damage. I mean... Granted, part of that was also positioning. The Warden's a bit further behind. Shambler was able to move around it while the Draconins tried to get in, but ultimately couldn't bait that Goliath into the Warden until the Anchor came up.
Yeah, big deal for sure. And you know what? I'm just really excited to see what other kinds of funny stuff that Terran players can do. You know, I'm sure you'll echo this sentiment, but I feel like we just don't have enough Terran players. Although yourself and, of course, Genius came in recently, who's a rising Terran player. He's trying his best to play a lot of games and stuff. He was one of the guys who had the hardest time trying to get set up because there's certain antiviruses that just really don't like the game.
Tell me about it.
You know, so you've obviously had that problem with Bitdefender, but there's a couple other ones that have we've had to negotiate with, and in the process of adding all these little troubleshooting steps to the guide and stuff. But you know what? The fact that he's got it now and he's just grinding it out, that's a feel-good moment. We can all feel good about that. But hey, thank you again. I feel good about getting you back on for another cast. Appreciate that.
Yeah, it was fun.
You know,
yeah,
definitely
thank you for having me back on. Yeah,
sure. You get to see some more Terran in action. I'll be sure to. I'll try to sift for some Terran victories in the future, and maybe I'll bring you back on for those. see how things go.
Yeah, I'm glad to see it. Good to learn from, because Terran victory is not describing my current play at all. Being that I am still kind of new to this game.
That's right. Hey, that's okay. I mean, one of the things I've been trying to do lately is play a little bit more myself, so maybe I can supply some additional replays. I'm not necessarily a great Terran player, but we'll see what can happen. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us for yet another daily video. This is like, I don't know, 117 or 118 or something, but who knows? Who's counting? You guys can count if you want, and otherwise, just all that matters is that the count's going up tomorrow, so stay subscribed, and we'll see you later. Thanks again to Dominic for joining us.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, and have a good night.
GG's.